The lights had blown. Hassan blink-adjusted the gain on his helm's night vision and progressed cautiously. The bunker extended deep below ground level. A central corridor ran down the length of it, about 50 meters, from which smaller chambers branched off, each sealed by fresh sets of locked doors.
"Getting anything?" whispered Farouk over the comm. "No life signs here."
"Not yet," said Hassan, continuing ahead. The squad inched down the central corridor. Hassan heard nothing but the dim sounds of battle from outside. The other squads were doing a good job of drawing attention away, but they only had a short time in which to operate. He activated the proximity beacon on his palm-mounted auspex and saw, with some relief, the target locator rune flicker into being. "Third on the right," he said softly, motioning to a pair of slide doors some 30 meters ahead. 2 of his troops remained in the bunker entrance, sunk in shadow, their weapons aimed to take out any intruders. Hassan, Farouk, and the third operative slunk down the corridor. As Hassan edged forwards, he caught a faint hiss, like machine static. He paused. "You getting that?" he asked. Farouk looked at him.
"Getting what?"
"Nothing," said Hassan, pressing on. "Sensor glitch." They reached the chamber. It was locked and barred, just like the others. "Stand back," ordered Hassan, drawing fresh hyperacid capsules from his belt. As he moved, he heard a dull thud, followed by a whoosh of stale air. He threw himself around, his gun held one-handed. "What in?" he began, before seeing the motionless form of his squadmate on the floor. "Target!" shouted Farouk, opening fire with his rifle. A juddering hail of ice-bright bullets sprayed down the corridor, chinking and splintering from the metal walls. Hassan joined in, firing into the darkness. The confined space erupted into a storm of gunshots. "Cease fire!" shouted Hassan. The last echoes of the volley died. The bunker sank back into darkness. Wisps of smoke rose up from the ravaged floor. Farouk slammed a fresh magazine into his rifle. "What was it?" demanded Hassan, still seeing nothing on his proximity scan.
"No idea," muttered Farouk. "Never got a proper look."
Hassan glanced down at the downed operative's body. A single slash had torn clean through his throat, blood beneath him, thick and dark. "Captain?" came an inquiry from the soldiers stationed at the entrance. "Stand by," ordered Hassan. "Hold position." His mind began to race, wondering how anything could have got so close without registering on his sensors. He reached up to his helm and depressed the release catch. "Remove your visor."
"What?"
asked Farouk, sounding tense.
"That's madness! Do it!"
Hassan's helm slid open with a smooth hiss. He felt the hot, dusty air brush against his face. Deprived of his false-color night vision, everything was black. He still saw no sign of the thing that had attacked them. He felt vulnerable, nearly blind, stuck underground with something he couldn't detect. He heard Farouk's visor open.
"Great," said Farouk. "Now we're blind."
"When all else fails," said Hassan, reaching for a low-burn flare and keying it for ignition, "use the eyes you were born with." He hurled the flare down the long corridor, hearing it bounce from the walls. The torch exploded into life, throwing a dull red bloom across the surfaces around it. In the brief burn time, Hassan saw something dark and hunched, about 10 meters further down, pressed tight against the far wall. It was man-shaped and wearing some kind of sensor-reflective armor, veined with silver wires and nodes. As soon as the flare went off, the figure leapt from the wall and tore towards them. "Now! Shoot!" ordered Hassan. The enemy bounded towards them, darting between the spitting lines of fire with uncanny speed. Farouk winged it, blasting through the armor on the left shoulder, but it kept coming. "Bring him down!" shouted Hassan, falling back as he fired, aiming for the figure's shifting outline. Farouk screamed. Hassan saw steel talons flash in the darkness, ripping Farouk's protective carapace as though it were made of paper. "Farouk!" he shouted, swinging back in close, feeling his gun click empty. The enemy stared right at him then, just for an instant, the masked face caught in the jagged flashes of muzzle discharge. Hassan saw red-rimmed eyes, dilated from combat stims, shot deep in stretched skin. He thrust the hyperacid capsule, still clutched in his left fist, into the man's face, smashing it open before throwing himself clear. The screams were unholy, a cacophony of animal shrieks and gurgling, throttled agony. The smell of charred flesh filled the corridor, accompanied by bloody splatters as the acid ate down to the man's arteries. Hassan scrabbled away, grabbing hold of Farouk's reeling body and hauling it clear. The enemy staggered away from them, clutching at his disintegrating face. Then he collapsed, twitching, his savaged head and neck steaming and popping. Hassan got back to his knees, breathing heavily. The two operatives he'd left at the doors reached his position. They stared down at the twisted body of the enemy warrior, then at Farouk. Farouk coughed, spraying blood against Hassan's armor. "How bad?" demanded Hassan, flipping his visor closed.
"Significant,"
croaked Farouk. Hassan felt the heavy weight of Farouk's body in his arms. He wouldn't do much more fighting. "We're almost done," he said, lowering him carefully to the ground and moving over to the sealed doors. "Then we're on our way out." Hassan primed a charge, clamped it, and withdrew. The four of them shuffled back away from the doors, and the crack grenade went off with a sharp, focused report, blasting a jagged hole in the metal. "That'll bring them running," Hassan said grimly, getting to his feet and heading for the broken entrance, reloading as he went. "Now let's retrieve the target and get out before they catch us."